Hello everybody and welcome to Bridgewater. Now today I'm going to be sampling the new Exmoor coaster. In previous years, I think since 2021, First Bus have operated the Exmoor coaster both commercially and under contract to Somerset and Devon councils. However, First Bus no longer operate the service. I think they said it was not very viable anymore, considering that last year they didn't even operate open toppers, and now Stagecoach are taking over the service, which you would think was good. However, Stagecoach Southwest do not have many open toppers. As a result, there's one bus shuttling back and forth between Minehead and Lynmouth, meaning there's only 3 buses a day in each direction. The onward service from Lynmouth to Ilfracombe is now operated by a single decker, although to be honest I think that's for the better, as that service was not very popular anyway. Now you may be wondering why I'm starting in Bridgewater. I thought whilst I'm heading down to Minehead I might as well utilise the free HPC community bus. This is an awesome local bus, supposedly for the local residents only, but to be honest anybody can use it. It's completely free and runs 3 times a day on weekdays only, and utilises a plain white MMC usually. Here comes my HPC community bus to take me on the nearly 2-hour journey all the way to Minehead. This is a great little bus service and serves many rural towns and villages which would get little to no bus service, depending on which village, if this service didn't exist. I believe this was one of the commitments that EDF had to make so they could build the new Hinkley Point C power station. Anyways, as usual, this is a plain white ADL Enviro 200 MMC, although in more recent times I have seen standard Enviro 200s used on the route. Now this bus was for some reason extremely busy, it was completely full and emptied out after Nether Stowey, but I do find it a bit strange why this particular journey was quite busy and full of what looked like college students, so maybe college had finished early for the day or something, as this service is usually not very busy or full of old people. Here is the bus pulling into the small bus stop here at Comage. Now, with the exception of the HPC community bus, this also gets one journey on First Bus Somerset Route 14 on college days only, and this operates to and from the college, but also stops off at Bridgewater bus station like regular 14 services from Cannington, so you can in theory use this service for commuting if you only work on college days. After negotiating some very small lanes, we passed through the small village of Nether Stowey. This is an extremely nice but isolated village, and it's weird how it doesn't get very many bus services at all, considering it's quite close to Bridgewater. Here I am passing through Watch It. Here you can change for regular bus services to Taunton or Minehead, as well as the West Somerset Railway when they actually operate it. Or should I say, when you can actually afford it, as the tickets are so expensive. After passing through Washford and Carhampton, as well as Dunster's Deep, where you can walk up into the village centre, we got to the outskirts just after Alcombe, and this is where things started to go wrong. It turns out the road had been closed and nobody knew about it. Even the locals were a bit confused in their cars, so in the end I bailed out here and walked into Minehead town centre, which is further than I thought, but at least I did make the Exmoor coaster. After walking through the Minehead suburbs, I make my way onto the main street. I'm not too sure what it's called, but I do pass a Wright GB Kite Electroliner on the first bus 28 heading back to Taunton, as well as my bus to take me to Lynmouth on its way into Minehead and out towards Butlins. This is a converted open-top Scania N230UD AGL Enviro 400, and I believe that bus was originally a double-decker, hence why I said converted. Now, I would like to mention here that it isn't actually called the Exmoor Coaster, neither is it called the Exmoor Explorer, and neither does it have any branding as to what the route is called. It's just Service 300. It is a bit of a shame that they don't have any branding, but at least then they can use whatever vehicles they have, just in case the open topper breaks down or something. Here I am departing Minehead Butlins bang on time at 12:30. I would have liked to have been on a 10 or an 11:30 bus, however I couldn't make it down for the 9:30 and there is no 10 or 11:30 as the service doesn't run every hour like it used to with First Bus. This is probably because they've got a shortage of open toppers in the southwest, and that doesn't just go for Stagecoach. No other companies actually have open toppers in the southwest except if you go to Weymouth. As well as that, this bus is actually based out of Barnstaple Pottington depot, meaning that the bus has to do a dead run all the way to and from Barnstaple all the way to Minehead, which probably isn't very good. Anyway, here I am heading into Minehead town centre and then onwards towards Porlock. Here I am passing through the beautiful village of Porlock. This is where the regular bus services end and the 300 is the only bus service heading onwards. Porlock does get served, especially in the winter, as the 300 service doesn't actually operate in the winter, by the At West Service 10, which operates using a minibus between Porlock Weir, Porlock and Minehead. Here I am making my way up the infamous Porlock Hill. This section of the road is actually part of the A39 and therefore I think makes the A39 the steepest A road in the UK, or at least for this section, which makes the 300, just like the Exmoor Coaster has been, the steepest bus route in the UK, or at least in England. I'm not too sure about other countries. It is a shame that they didn't at least brand it as the Exmoor Explorer or the Exmoor Coaster, because I think that's what drew passengers onto the service when it was operated by First. It had an iconic livery, and even when the service wasn't operated using open toppers, such as last year, it was still called the Exmoor Explorer, which I think even just having that name attracted lots and lots of passengers who were staying over at Butlins. Exmoor County Gate. Because there's only 3 buses a day in each direction, I'm not going to be alighting here like I did a few years ago. As well as that, here we can get some great views of the outwards ocean. As the bus descends Countisbury Hill, we can get some great views of the Atlantic coastline out towards Lynmouth. Now, there are a few other steep hills on this route, both on the open top section to Lynmouth and then on the single deck section off to Ilfracombe. However, Porlock Hill seems to get all the attention. Countisbury Hill between Countisbury and Lynmouth is also equally as steep, and so pretty much is the hill heading up from Lynmouth up towards Barbrook, known as Lynbridge Hill. I'm not too sure if these are actually as steep as Porlock Hill, but they seem like it, and especially with Lynbridge Hill, that seems to have a bit more of a local reputation. Here I am in the heart of Lynmouth at the Lindale Coach Park, which is the main bus station, as well as where you can pick up hire coaches in the Lynmouth area. This is where you can change for other Stagecoach bus services, including the 309 and 310 off to Barnstaple and my next bus, the other 300, which is operated using a single decker, usually the same one, which heads off to Ilfracombe. Here's a shame that it's only Stagecoach in this area now, as Filers used to operate the 309 and 310, however at least it means that buses can interconnect with each other. Here I am making my way up the notorious Lynbridge Hill. In the summer month, this gets clogged with all sorts, including the 300 bus, as well as lorries, trucks and caravans, many of them. However, at least the 300 is the only bus route, I'm pretty sure, to travel up the majority of Lynbridge Hill, as the 309 and 310 operate via Linton. After making that very steep hill climb, the bus finally rejoins the A39 at Barbrook. Here I am arriving at Blackmore Gate. This is where the 300 separates from the 309 and the 310 routes as they head off towards Barnstaple, and the 300, which is what I'm on, heads off towards Combe Martin and Ilfracombe. One thing I'd just like to point out as I leave Blackmore Gate heading towards Combe Martin is that the 300 doesn't serve the small village of Paracombe in between Barbrook and Blackmore Gate, even though the services 309 and 310 do. I don't think it would add any extra time, as it's pretty much just as direct. Here I am passing through the very strange village of Combe Martin. It's quite nice down towards the bottom where the beach is. It's a very long village. All of the houses are basically located along the same main road, which just so it happens is very long. The wildlife and dinosaur park isn't even located in the main village, and you probably have to get a bus there as it's probably quite dangerous to walk along the main road. After passing through the Hill Bay area, we make our way into Ilfracombe town centre. It's worth pointing out that since Combe Martin, the bus has been running alongside Service 301, also operated by Stagecoach, which heads through Ilfracombe and then onwards to Barnstaple. Just like many routes in the southwest, the 301 is branded as a rail link service and has GWR's green branding on its dedicated vehicle. Just bear in mind that it might not always be that vehicle though. After trundling through the town centre, I finally make it to the last stop on Service 300. This is where most of the other Stagecoach buses terminate at the St James's Place Garden stop. Interestingly though, the Exmoor coaster, when it was operated by First, didn't actually terminate here. It terminated just around the corner on Rookery Road and was advertised as Ilfracombe Harbour. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everyone!